product thinking in legacy system for development teams, is it even needed? So as I started, we will have a self-introductory session in all the sessions. So I'll give it to Sharmila. She will give a introduction first and we'll start the session. Over to you, Sharmila.
Okay, so very good morning. It's still a morning. Welcome to the topic, which is very vast in a way. If you go and research, there is profound concepts available around this topic. But 30 minutes is of course too short. But I've tried to summarize what is the idea of my product thinking and legacy team and what does it mean for a development team. Okay, so let me tell you a joke. Okay, the joke is that there's a plane and there are people sitting in the plane. And there's an announcement that, okay, this is the first time we are going to test our takeoff software and we welcome you on board. And immediately there is a panic because I think people are scared. First time you are testing on us, we need to get down, and people start offboarding. But there's one person who is still sitting in the plane. And any guess who that is? Somebody said developer. Okay, he said, I have developed the software that there's no guarantee that this will take off anyway. So he's pretty chilled. Let me modify this joke a bit. Okay, the joke modification is the takeoff software is working and there is a patch recently installed and on that software. Will the software developer still be confident that the plane will take off or not? Not really. Not really. We ourselves are not very confident. And that's where, we kind of think about what exactly it means, legacy systems, and what exactly is product thinking. So let me show you an example. This is Boeing 787 Dreamliner. I don't know if you've ever boarded this plane. This is one plane which is running for decades. There's a decades of planning into making this work. So if you think of a Boeing, it takes about 6 decades. So 3 decades of decades, I'm saying. It's like 60 years, 60, not even 60. So that's the kind of planning that Boeing has to do when they have to kind of design and maintain this kind of aircrafts. We are not even thinking 1 year, 2 year ahead in the software industry, but they're thinking 60 years, what will happen to these planes. Now, Boeing did exactly the same. When they were launching the 787, rather designing, they had a test flight. And what they did is they made all software heads board that flight. And there was a turbulence, mind it. And there was a midnight fix, which is very usual in any software, that was done by this turbulence control software. It's not a news story when we kind of, get business on board, the IT onboarded into the business kind of an environment. We fumble upon what is happening to our products. So let's come to this basic question. So if Boeing understood something extremely fundamental of making their software heads sit in a plane, what are we missing then? I think we are missing something fundamentally. So coming to, let me say a caveat before I start. These are my thoughts, to be honest, and there could be a disagreement, and disagreement is most welcome. We don't have to have an agreement on everything, so that's the caveat. And this caveat actually is connected to the epiphany, that a sudden realization that I've had in my career, where I think maybe are things really working, when you ask these questions to yourself. So that's what the epiphany and the session is all about, the realization that I have had so far. So I'm going to share real data with my own teams. So hang on for some time for that. So what do you mean by product? My definition, I have not referred to Oxford Dictionary at all. My definition of product, anything that is sold to customer is a product. Not a software, and not like integration software, that's not a product. Product is a mineral water, product is a chair, product is the projector and everything, not just the software. Okay, so let's get that definition. Then what do we mean by legacy? Often a very debatable term. What's legacy? Simple meaning for me. Anything that is out of the showroom is legacy. The day the release window is open for any system, whether it is tomorrow, yesterday, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, Absolutely legacy. What we do is when we create products, we put in a lot of, we pour in energy of design thinking and all of that. Once it is released, legacy. We get into maintenance mode. Isko chalao, usko patch dalo, make it work. That's it. So legacy is anything that is released. Doesn't matter how you use. So what is product thinking? Some people might want to call it system thinking, but that is more of thinking from a product perspective. Okay, simple definitions. So the topic, I think I've clarified the terms that I want to use henceforth. Okay, so interesting curve. This is called, actually this is Pare's curve. Okay, this is the business. Okay, every business has a curve. Okay, so let me explain that. So this is the this big bang, and then there is a next big bang. So there is, when you start, this is the actually interruption phase where you have a lot of venture capitalists pouring in a lot of money. You see a startup boom, innovations, blah, blah, blah. The focus is not really on the margins. Focus is to get something working. Then there is a turning point where you kind of try to establish some things. You try to establish what is kind of a product, seems like. And then you get into a mass production. So this is like a business curve. And interestingly, there is also something called as a zone. So one realization is that we pick up metrics, we pick up measurements, we pick up valuation, straight apply without even thinking at what phase we are. Velocity. Sprints, scrums are velocity, but if you try and use velocity at the interruption phase, is it really beneficial? It's not. You can use it in the turning point, maybe, maybe not. You can use it in the production mode, maybe you can. That's a better. But without even thinking at what stage your business is, we pick up frameworks, we pick up metrics, we straight away apply, and we think, oh, that's where we should be. No, think where your business is. Okay? Now there is something called as a zone management. This is very, very synonym to what I showed in the previous slide, where you are in your business. So one is, so if you see, this is the revenue, this is the disruption, this is sustaining innovation. So very similar to what I said in the previous slide. So there is a transformation zone where you want to make a big change, like an interruptions, where you had. Performance zone where you want to perform, make the top line. Then you have incubation where you actually, like I said initially, you have a lot of venture capitalists pouring in money to make something work. But the idea is not to make really kind of bottom line. And when you get into productivity, you have bottom lines. Then let's talk about bottom lines. Let's talk about margins. Let's talk about revenues. Where? In the last zone, not in the incubation zone. Okay, so I work in an organization which, of course, works for a client. I work in a services industry. We work for an insurance company, a big US-based insurance company. We have a product, we have insurances, we have systems. We have about 16 teams working on different products, plus peripheral teams, lot of them. Plus third party, all of them, where we integrate the payment gateway and all of that, all of the systems, okay? So now what we have done is, we release a feature, we call it a project. We had a fantastic discussion 2 weeks back with a product owner. She said that, okay, we have to roll back a new feature, but I will not take up the learning cost. I asked, what do you mean by learning cost? She said, no, this is something that you are supposed to learn yourself, and I will only pay for your execution cost. I said, it is impossible to separate the learning cost from your actual execution. And our delivery manager in US agreed that, okay, Sharmila, why don't you do one thing? Why don't you separate the learning cost from that? And then we had a huge debate on it. Same product owner is also for the other team. Okay, now for the other team, we ran, let me just, okay, show you the data. This is real data. I have just kind of masked the features and the this thing. So we run a repair program where in US a customer goes to a mobile store with replacement or a repair of a handset. He is insured, so he either gets a replacement or a repair. Okay, so 5 programs we ran, 6 programs we ran, story points, number of sprints that we ran for that feature, 59.5 for the first program 4 sprints. Down, if you see, program 5 is 83 points, we ran in 2 sprints. 6 programs, 74 story points, half sprint, 1 week flat, and we were ready. We were absolutely ready. And if similar program comes, we don't need a development because we've configured everything in the system. That's real data. I wrote a fantastic mail to all my product owners and senior management. This is a journey of my team. They have gained a lot. They have improved velocity. And expecting a lot of kudos and wows, nothing happened. Nothing happened because what we did made no sense to them. Because in the business, it made no impact. Absolutely no impact. However, we have developed that feature. It's just one team who has improved the velocity. There is a payment gateway which is still going to take 6 weeks. There is a logistic vendor who still will take our stories 2 months down the line. What has it impacted? Nothing. In the end, the feature will go to the market only when all these pieces of puzzle are tied together. What happened to the lead time? What happened to the cycle time? No impact. No business kudos, no wow, because they were not impressed. What we did? Something called as a local optimization. We optimize, but at the Scrum. So isn't Scrum working? Isn't Agile working? Isn't the transformation working? Maybe not. Okay, so let me show you an example. Let me share an example of Nokia. You know about Nokia Agile transformation? You know the case study? You think Nokia failed? They did, in a way. They had to wind up their business. They did fail. But did they realize on time? Actually, they did. Nokia did realize that they needed to change their business at the right time. They started with a big multi-billion agile transformation program which failed because they had such a big technical debt that the Symbian OS that they were working on had no capability of third-party software installation. Like we have Apple App Store, you know, they had no capability. So the technical debt was not reduced at all. Did Agile work? On the maturity scale, they were all on track. They had Agile transformations. How many people trained on Agile? How many transformation? How many teams? All of that. Fantastic. But in the end, absolutely no result because the Agile is fine at the local optimization. People had no problem with Agile. But it was not tied back to the business metrics. So with that thought, that leaves me, isn't it same like Nokia's story? My story is same as Nokia. It is. It is. So how do we get the product teams, the project teams, Scrum teams, dev teams, whatever you call, to understand the product? Can we solve this puzzle? So if we kind of go on the proxymetrics is the metrics that doesn't connect to the business outcome. People trained on Agile is a proxymetric. You do burn downs? How many hours burn? I get a call from our senior management. ये टीम का इतना ही burn down हुआ. इसका burn down क्यों नहीं हुआ? How does it matter? Is it connected to the business as well? It's not. It's not. However hours you burn, even you burn more than what is given to you in the capacity, you'll never get the outcome. Because what you measure is not connected to your business. So how do dev teams get to product thinking? That has been the question that I have been struggling with. So rather than doing this burn downs and activity, so this is called as an activity-based tracking. You know, task close हुए क्या, TFS में दिखता है क्या, and you know, velocity pass से है क्या. TFS, you remember, people, you know, ये जीरा में यार task नहीं close हुए, task क्यों नहीं close हुए? Activity-based monitoring. We have to get out of that and get into the product-based metrics, measurement that will actually drive business value for you. How? It's possible. People think about it and come up with frameworks, isn't it? People do come up with frameworks. There's something called as a value stream. You would have heard of, you know, thinking of a value stream. Now the question is that if I think, okay, I have to do value stream, how do I measure value stream? How do I get business to understand what I'm trying to track? So this is the framework that is actually a flow framework. This is called as a flow framework. Mind it, as Priya said, you don't have to kind of pick and choose frameworks and just apply. You have to use your common sense, use where it is applicable, where it is not. It tells you to track the flow. I'll come that in a minute. Okay, but there are 4 factors for any legacy system: defects, features, risk, technical debts. Anything that else you can think of. And are our metrics revolving around these 4 factors? No, they are not. What we measure is, हमको सिर्फ feature डालना है, डेप्थ, टेक्निकल डेप्थ से लेना है, रिस्क ठीक है, चलता है, देख लेंगे, एंड डिफेक्ट तो ठीक है, कर लो, बात साइड में कर लो, बट फीचर में इम्पॉर्टेंट है. So what is important is a flow distribution. The flow distribution is your capacity distribution between all these 4 factors. We don't manage our capacity in a way that if I have a major release, I need to adjust my flow. I need to give more time to depths, I need to give more time to risk than features. We do that kind of a planning and prediction, we don't. We don't. Major release, we just release it and still think that the feature velocity will still be the same. It's not. So look at your flow distribution in the first place. Your business has to understand the flow distribution. Flow velocity is more of like velocity that you do at the agile teams. Don't mind, agile is okay at this team level, and that still is there. But what you have to get is elevate them to think about flow, the value stream. Okay? Then the flow efficiency, what is the efficiency? The total capacity that you have wasted against the waiting time, that's your flow efficiency. Flow time, how long is the actual process time? So flow time is actually when you start on a feature and end on the feature, not when inception and end like a lead cycle time. Lead time. So this is still a subset of your lead time. No, that's not cycle time. Cycle time is real execution time. Flow time is when you start on a feature and give it to the customer. Lead time is your end-to-end time where you have inception till it is released to the customer. So this is still in between. And the flow load as to how much of work in progress you have. So this connects back to your value stream. Now all of that cannot be done by just doing Excels. Mind it. It cannot be done. So what you need is 3 areas. You need to connect your tools. Last, you are able to see you have to connect your tools and statuses. BMW has the highest level of automation. Whenever they find a bug, it has to flow back to their supplier, fix it, and come back to BMW system. And there are thousands of suppliers, mind it. It's not as simple as we think. So you have to connect your tools. You have to build a tool network, map the statuses. Okay? Then you have to also artifact network, traceability. Same Dreamliner Boeing example that I gave, they did delay their release. So they had outsourced their brake system, brake software to a third party. And third party, in a way, gave it to the fourth party. The software was built, the brake was working. It was all fine. But still they delayed the release of Boeing. Why? Any thoughts? Any ideas? What could be the reason? Quality was not the issue, by the way. Sorry? Integration did work. As I said, functionally, everything was absolutely as expected. As expected. Chance with what? No, there's nothing like that. There is a very, very fundamental reason why they did not release it, because the traceability was not there to the requirements. The code that was written for the brake software did not have traceability to requirement. Why the hell did they bother about that? 60 years, I told you, for a Boeing. The life of Boeing is 60 years. And if they have to maintain that software for 60 years, they have to maintain that traceability. They took a decision of rewriting the entire software because the traceability was missing. So it was most economical for them to rewrite the software than kind of create backdated traceability, because as a developer, the backdated traceability doesn't work. It is highly impossible to build that traceability. So they actually took a decision of rewriting the entire software. That's the level of connection that you need in your artifacts. Your defects, your requirements, your risk, and your technical debts have to connect to your business requirements. So that's how you create the artifact network. And the next is, of course, the alignment of your own products, where you are connecting and integrating product, जो तो हम करते ही हैं. So thing one has to tie back to two, and the entire flow has to work, which is more like integrating of different softwares that we do. But unless you don't have your TFS, your VSTS, your Jira, not connected to your suppliers network, not connected to your third-party vendor and getting back the status, artifacts, traceability, and your tools connectivity. Unless and until these three things are not done, you cannot measure. You should not measure. So you have to really start on the basics. And then if you measure with the dev teams of flow metrics, it will work. It is like, you know, it takes time. It's not, the Rome was not built in a day. It takes time. But this is when you actually get, so one example of, so this is my epiphany that, oh wow, I think this is something fundamental and we need to work on. So if you go to, I would seriously recommend you go and buy a book called Projects to Products. This book has a flow framework that I have kind of picked up. I am also presenting this to my senior management because there's a realization, like I shared, I have, because we are highly projectized and we don't take learning time, by the way, in the project. So I have referred to that book for this. I've also researched a lot of articles, but this is the most relevant that you should end up buying, actually. You will actually have a lot of realizations. It is kind of epiphany for you also that, oh, okay, this is how we work and this is how it should probably work. That has an example of BMW plant, which is entirely integrated. There's IT sits in between the manufacturing plant in Germany where they see the cars moving. And mind it, BMW car manufacturing is just not the mass production. They are made per order. Every car has an order, and the car moves in a sequence of the orders. So it is highly complex. Plus the electronic car segment. So evolution of new market, new products. So all of these things are actually, when companies like Boeing and BMW can learn, what are we missing? So we need to elevate ourselves to thinking of what your flow is saying. How is the distribution looking? Where are we wasting time? And is the final business outcome of value, cost, quality, and happiness that you still have to measure and connect back to your metrics, is the entire picture working? If that works, you will get your teams to the product thinking. Of course, that's not the only way, I would say. There are many other ways. This is a sample. TaskTop is a company where Mike Kirsten works, who has written the book. So he's shared an example of flow metrics and dashboard that they have developed. But this is something that we have done. We actually are in a legacy system, which is about 10 years old. We actually sat back with all the teams, drew a user story map, identified what exactly is the value stream flow like, where are the dependencies, which companies, which vendors, which teams are doing what, and where we are lagging time. So we did the entire planning of one complete carrier like this. So we're getting there, we're getting better, but we are not very good right now because we are still projectized. So projectized, I have not covered actually drawbacks. I think you can go through it, but budgeting has a problem, success, risk, because you have no budget for your technical depths. Who will take the learning budget? Who will take the technical depths project? So we have a highest automation possibility even in our projects, which I have also proposed, but no one has budget for it. The management says, wow, what an idea, you know, fantastic. Your proposal looks good, you know, we should do this. But who will take the cost? So that's where the projectized way stops you from thinking like a product. There are many. There are many. You can actually refer to the book. There are examples of large banks who have done it.
So I'm just trying to link how agile and this will.
Agile on the ground with the teams, like I said, you can still do it. It assumes that your agile works. It assumes. But you have to elevate to, like Priya was saying in the morning, you know, are we solving the business problems? That's the final thing. So is this agile? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe yes. If you line up to the principles, it is. It is exactly. You're adding to customers' competitive advantage. That's one of the principles. It's agile. Why not? Let's call it agile. I don't know. Yeah, that's what I said. That there are 4 factors that you have to monitor: features, technical debt, risk, and defects. So you have to distribute. So you have to align your distribution, flow distribution accordingly. So I can also answer it separately, but that's how you look at the 4 factors in a legacy system typically.
What's the fourth factor? Feature, risk, defect, and technical debt.
Technical debts, yeah. So in a projectized way, you probably look at just the project risk, not the product risk. So that's it from my side. Hope you've got some insight, and even if there is one small learning from what I have researched, I think that's my honor. I think I'm just learning from others too. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Sharmila. It was really nice, and it's like rather than having the theoretical that this is a practical way what we are facing day in and day out. So this is a reality what we every day we face, and I'll request please come on the stage. We have a small token of appreciation for Sharmila.